right, welcome back, everybody. SharkNation number 4. We have a very, very special guest here with Jason and myself today, Sir Darren Jacklin. How are you doing, Darren?
Oh, I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for allowing me for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting one. I mean, you are a very accomplished individual. I think personally and professionally. You look at personal, it's hard to find a lot of measuring sticks, and I think you've found a big one in all the summiting you've done. Is that right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Just doing all this hiking has just been extraordinary in the last few years of my life, and it just didn't start till I was about 48 years of age. I'm 51 now,
Wow.
and so I had people say a midlife crisis. I had a turning point in my life, and summited Mount Kilimanjaro recently in Tanzania, East Africa, at 19,340 feet. I'm now training to summit Mount Vincent in Antarctica in January 2025, which is the coldest place on planet Earth. So it's just mind-boggling to go from to go to that extreme temperatures, but I'm doing it to make a difference in the world because of people's mental health, and also to alleviate children around the world from poverty, especially in living conditions like today. There's so much abundance on the planet. Why not help alleviate people and take care of the next generation, help people, right? Because I believe that the secret to living is giving. And that when we dedicate our lives to a cause greater than ourselves, we get out of the way of ourselves and we support that mission and vision, that cause, whatever that is, for each person or family. And then we're cause driven to serve people and make a contribution to society. And I'm driven by that.
I love. Okay. So I didn't realize. I guess you started at about three or so years ago and so we're okay.
Yeah, I can share with you the story about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you start from nothing to doing these gigantic summits, and then how do you? Okay, so going to a good cause like that. What does that look like for? Like, how do you explain that to the regular person?
So I've hiked a few times throughout my life, right? But when I'm 48 years of age, here I am. I'm in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. I'm speaking at a real estate conference for about 1,200 people just before COVID-19 breaks out. And I'm in my hotel room in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. And I've got a brand new suit on. I've got a brand new dress shirt. And I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I'm going to blow the buttons on my dress shirt. And I'm thinking in my mindset, how am I going to stand on stage so I don't blow my buttons? This is true story. And I'm strategizing in my mind, visualizing how I'm going to do this. And I'm embarrassed. And I think to myself, I live by a principle in life: time will either promote you or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time whether you get promoted or you get exposed. It's going to go one way or the other, right? Because without integrity, nothing works. It promotes you or exposes you. And now I've been exposed because of all the junk food and fast food I've eaten over a period of time is now compounded to where I'm being exposed versus being promoted. And I go out on stage and I'm uncomfortable. I'm not self-confident within myself. I'm embarrassed. I got a lot of negative self-talk going on. I deliver a world-class presentation that I'm prepared for, and I have my deliverables to the audience because I want to not waste their time and give them practical information. But when I leave, that was a defining turning point in my life. I came back to Vancouver, Canada, where I live primarily. And I said to a couple people, listen, I want to come out hiking with you because I need to release weight. And so during the lockdown of COVID-19, I was obsessed with hiking in Vancouver, Canada, and I dropped 43 pounds in weight. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So what happened was I started posting on all my different social media channels. And if people go back through my social media, they'll see the timeline of all this unfold. Yeah. And I started having all these people private message me and comment on my social media feeds. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I've been hiking for years with my spouse or partner or with my kids. And then people started coming out with me. And so we built this hiking group around the Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada area. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, when the COVID-19 lockdown released, all these people started traveling again. And people are like, oh my gosh, can I come hiking with you? This is just in the last few years. Wow. And so then it created a movement. So I started getting Olympic athletes, professional athletes, celebrities, CEOs, executives, high net worth, ultra high net worth, people from all walks of life, all different ages come on hiking with me. Then people are like, oh my gosh, what if we started hiking for a cause? What if we actually turned this hiking into a cause where we had a purpose behind it to help people with their mental health, but also support a charity or a foundation? Well, Tatiana and I have created an international foundation called Link Foundation, where we build schools around the world for some of the most impoverished children on the planet. Now, we started with the African continent, which we started building schools over there, but now we've taken all over the planet where we can help to alleviate children. So now what we do is through hikingfundraiser.com, right? People go to hikingfundraiser.com from all walks of life. We put hikes on there. They sign up. They come out hiking for a day. They get a tax receipt if they live in the United States or Canada because we're an international foundation. And then through E2 Elevate to Educate, people come out hiking. And the money we collect from the registration of the hikers and from the sponsorship then gets allocated towards building a school around the world. So now all those hikers that come out that day from all walks of life who don't know each other through a network of conversations are now part of a humanitarian project to help alleviate children from poverty, from human and child sex trafficking, to decrease the odds of them getting targeted, and then to help them empower them in their villages and communities to become the next shining stars to alleviate them from poverty. Because if you talk to anybody in a third world country and you ask them, what's the number one thing we can do for your village or do for your community, is they always say, provide education. Education changes people's lives in a measurable way. And so that's what we've done. We've built our first school over in Liberia, West Africa, with over 300 children now going to school for the first time ever in their lives. We did an E2E, Elevate to Educate event earlier this year, raised enough money to help now build a high school. And now we're going into building more schools. We've committed 100 schools over the next 10 years towards global philanthropy. And we've got people coming in from all over. Our last hike we did in Vancouver, Canada, we had people flying from all over Canada, all over the United States of America. We had Thailand, the Bahamas. It was just amazing. So people do it for networking, collaboration, but also it's an inspiring environment because people are like, oh my gosh, you'll meet your future self. So if you want to release weight and get in better shape, you're going to find somebody who's in better shape than you. You want to make more money, you're going to find somebody on the hiking trail who's made more money. You want a better promotion, job, you want the dream life or dream relationship. All of that is available through a network of conversations through our Elevate to Educate community. So it's a very inspiring, enriching, empowering environment of people.
Oh, that's amazing. We were just at the Maverick Mastermind last weekend in Las Vegas, and some of the top performers there, they're going on, we climb this summit, and it looks miserable. They're all in like parkas, and they got goggles, and they have the mask on, and they can only see like a foot in front of them. And I'm like, that doesn't look great, but I'm down for giving back. So I think I would sign up just for giving back and like you said, getting healthy. I think that's
sure.
Awesome
And Jason, here's something also to consider. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? At the top of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-actualization of human growth and potential. And when I was doing Mount Kilimanjaro, so like when I got the phone call from a friend of mine, because in 2023, he was turning 40 years of age. He called me up in the summer of 2022 and he said, listen, I'd love for you to be part of my Mount Kilimanjaro hiking team. And I said, absolutely not. And he's like, what do you mean? Why are you a hard no? I said, listen, I'm not an athlete. I'm not genetically wired that way. I don't have the DNA structure. And he goes, Darren, listen, you always teach people all excuses are equal. He goes, why would you take yourself out of the game before the game's even begun? He goes, look what you've done in life and business. He goes, why? I said, listen, I have never been to 19,340 feet in elevation, almost 20,000 feet. I said, I've been that high in an airplane, a commercial airplane, but never hiking. And he goes, well, you've got a year to train for it. And I'm just like, wow. So the whole thing was I was going up Kilimanjaro. Nothing about Kilimanjaro or any of the big 7 summits is comfortable. It's completely uncomfortable. But that's the cool thing, is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right. Whether it's in cold environments, I'm taking you out nighttime hiking. See, here's the cool thing about hiking. I'll give you an example. You and I can go play pickleball. We can play tennis. We can go golfing. And you can take people out in terms of business development, or you want to have somebody as a client, or recruit somebody, or attract somebody into your business or your life. And you can do all that on a pickleball court, a tennis, or a golf course. Here's the difference about hiking. If I invite both of you guys out hiking right now to the wilderness, you may or may not say it to me, but you're thinking, oh my gosh, is there wild animals out there? What if I can't get back to the parking lot and get my vehicle? What if I have to fart or burp, or what if I have to, all these what ifs, these unknowns. So what happens is, psychologically, you have to automatically trust me if you accept my invitation as a yes.
Huh.
You have to trust me. Because I have to have your back. Right. So the mask comes off, and now the authenticity and vulnerability gets displayed.
And now you're like, in your hand for sure.
You betcha. It's a hard commitment, because now you're like, oh my gosh, I have to rely on this person. So what a great way to get people to know you and like you and trust you and build relationship equity and rapport. So in that 2-hour hike, you go from being on alert, oh my gosh, and I always say to people, listen, people always ask me, they go, Darren, are we going to see any wild animals out here? And I said, yeah, what do you want to see? And they go, what do you mean? I said, what do you want to see? And I come with it, what do you want to see? And they go, well, I don't want to see anything, And I'm like, okay, great. We probably won't see anything, right? Because they're going to hear us coming. I said, here's the thing. Do you feel fear right now? And people are like, oh my gosh, my heart's just pounding. I'm sweating. I'm shaking. I'm nervous. And great. Honor and celebrate that in your body. Honor and appreciate. Don't run from that, but celebrate it. Honor and respect it. That's the way you get a chance to touch into your feelings, your emotions more deeper, at a deeper level in your body. So honor and celebrate that. Here's the life lesson. The fear is real, but the threat is not. And where else does that show up in your life that you have fear? Oh my gosh, I just met this great person at this event. Now I got to do a follow-up. Oh my gosh, now the phone weighs 500 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, are they going to reject me? What are they going to say? Maybe they forgot about me. They talked to a lot of people, right? So the fear is real, but the threat is not. And I always ask people, where else does that show up in your life? Where is there evidence right now in your life that you have fear, but there's no threat that something's going to harm you or you're going to die? And you start to take a look as an awareness, because for most people, it's a blind spot. And you start realizing, oh my gosh, all around my life, I have fear of talking to strangers. I have fear of public speaking. I have fear of creating my own business. I have fear of asking this person on a date. But there's no threat of any kind that's going to hurt or harm you. And all of a sudden, boom, people have an incredible breakthrough. So I use hiking as a way to have people, in terms of personal development, to have a breakthrough, because you get a chance to, because here's the thing about hiking. I always share with people, behavior never lies. Okay, behavior never lies. You get to see people if they show up on time. Are they in integrity? Because without integrity, nothing works. So are they a person of their word, right? Because your word creates your world. Okay, do they show up on time? Do they come prepared? Do they have a water bottle? Do they have a granola bar? Do they have a snacks? Do they have a whistle? Do they have a trip plan? Do they ask questions about where we're going, what the elevation is, what the weather is? So you start to learn about people's behaviors, their personality styles, their risk tolerance levels. Are they a team player? Do they ask questions? If somebody needs help getting up the side of the hill, or to take their backpack off, or get a bottle of water out of the backpack, is this person a team player?
Right.
Because you start to see, it's like a dashboard. You start to see the person's life right in front of you. And it's a great way to, I always tell people who are professional coaches, I said, take people out hiking. You will see everything on display of how that person is in their lives, their fears, their doubts, their worries, their insecurities, their strengths, their weaknesses, and their blind spots. You'll see it all on a 2-3 hour hiking trip.
That's amazing.
I'm sold. We got to do it, Chad.
Well, I have been, it's funny. My wife always wanted to hike more. And I was I'm not doing that. I like else, but I've had a big, I'm going probably, I've just crossed the 30 threshold. I know I'm still pretty young there, but everything's changing. I like sushi Absolutely. Now. I never liked sushi before. I drive a truck. I used to have a Model 3 Tesla. Like everything's changing about me. Right. And hiking is something I've been really more intrigued with. So, and it's interesting the way you put it that way on how you can really get to know somebody. I mean, I've had a little experience where we were fishing a lot here in Tampa. We'd go 15, 20 miles offshore. And it's like, I did think a few times, like, we're out there. I have to trust these people. We're 15, 20 miles into the ocean, right? Like it's not.
No one's coming to rescue you, right?
It's going to make me miss boating if I keep talking about this. But
absolutely,
that is such a way to really get to know somebody and see the core of them. I absolutely love that. And you put it into such a good cause. I mean, that's amazing. I think so. Wow.
Because here's something to consider. Success is not something you go out in the world to pursue. Everybody thinks that you have to go and pursue success, right? I got to climb corporate America ladder. I got to get that next raise, that next promotion, I close that next big deal. Success is not something you go out in the world to pursue. Success is something you attract into your life by the person that you become. So how do you become an attractive person? Right. So if you look at a man or a woman who's in great physical shape that works out 4 or 5 days a week, as soon as you walk into an in-person meeting, a lunch meeting, or you're on a Zoom call with them, and you see that person in your mind, like, wow, that person's accountable, they're responsible, they're dedicated, they're committed, they're disciplined, they're focused, and they're reliable. You automatically make that judgment in the first 30 seconds of meeting them. Right. And so the thing is, when you're consistent, because I always share with people, listen, whatever you really, really, really want to do in your life, if those things are not structured into your calendar with a structure in your calendar, there's no evidence it exists in your life. Yeah, so people always say to me, hey, Darren, I want to make a lot more money in my real estate career. I say, great. Where in the next 7 days in your calendar do you have structured income producing activities or revenue generating activities? And then inside that calendar time block, where are the actual activities that you're going to be doing, making phone calls, following up, prospecting, asking for referrals. Where are those revenue generating activities? If it's not structured, having date nights in your relationship, spending more quality time with your children, taking a family vacation. If it's not structured in your calendar, there's no evidence that exists in your life.
Right.
So I always say, if it's not in your calendar, it's not in your life.
You show me
And
your
most
calendar,
people, when I have them pull up their calendar and they show me their calendar, they're like, oh my gosh, it's all empty. No wonder you're not achieving what you want to achieve in your life and receiving fulfillment and joy from what you want to do, because you don't have structures in place and then have accountabilities.
So I guess that answers and helps us transition, like we were curious of your daily process,
Yes.
I mean, you've got so much going on. Obviously the calendar's a big, aspect of that, but what does the daily, the mundane look like for you?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So I have daily non-negotiables. Number one is I journal every day. So I carry a journal. So I handwrite a journal every day. It's a daily non-negotiable. Things have changed in the last couple of years for me in terms of transitioning so now I exercise every day as a non-negotiable. Before I never exercised, unless I was walking to a meeting or going through, traveling. But now I have it scheduled for I spend 2 to 3 hours every day. Majority of that every day is hiking, or it's stretching now, or I do 100 push-ups every day. Like I never imagined in my life a few years ago ever doing 100 push-ups in a day. It was something I never ever thought in my lifetime. So what I did was I set alarms. So I have like on my iPhone. So what I do is I have my calendar. So I'll give an example. So this is the body that I'm chasing right now in my life. Every hour I have a different photograph that pops up of one of my goals or dreams on my calendar. I mean on my iPhone. So I have multiple different pictures that pop up constantly. So I'm seeing my future self of how I want to live. Right. Dr. Stephen Covey wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the 7 habits is begin with the end in mind. So I'm always beginning with the end in mind. And then what I do is with my calendar. So what I do is I have everything structured in my calendar. Everything's color coded, right? So I color code everything in my calendar. Then what I do is I go to my alarms. So now I have alarms for everything throughout the day. So so to me, early is on time and on time is late. So what I do is, I journal every day in my calendar. Okay. I also spend 15 minutes a day, right? Because it's easy to do and easy not to do. All right. So I spend 15 minutes a day master planning my life. So I have a master plan for my life. I have over 7,000 written goals. My goal is to get to 10,000 written goals. Now, people say, what? Over 7,000 written goals? How are you ever going to achieve that in your lifetime? People say, Darren, I've got family, I've got kids, I've got a busy life. Here's the thing I talk about in my book, Until I Become. Okay. This I want people to write down. Most of your goals and dreams do not require your actions. Think about that for a moment. Most of your goals and dreams do not require your actions. Feel like, whoa, what does that mean? Most of my goals and dreams don't require my actions. It requires you to create teams of people and teamwork. Today, we live in a world with technology where you can get virtual assistants around the world very inexpensively. And they can take care of what we call income. They can take care of your minimum wage activities. You can get apprentices and work experience students from colleges and universities for free that will come and do free volunteer work as practicum hours for training development for their degree. You can get people who, if you put on your social media, hey, I need somebody to help volunteer 2 hours a day or 10 hours a week. People will sign up just to apprentice or have mentorship under you to get trained and developed by you. You can use artificial intelligence. There's different platforms with different technology platforms that you can subscribe to. There's so many different ways that we can unpack that you can help to achieve your personal goals and dreams without your actions. So as I'm doing this interview right now, I have people internationally working with me now. People say, Darren, but I don't have any money. Listen, when I started, I got people from colleges and universities and high schools that would come out and volunteer with me. That's how I started. And as that grew and built and expanded, then I was able to financially afford to hire people. But in the beginning, I started with volunteer people. People would apprentice with me.
So I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the beginning, so all right, where you start, I guess I gotta. Well, I mean, just when you started, I guess, on the path towards success for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
like, what was the mission different then than it is now? Obviously, right? And what did that look like?
Yeah. So the big mission originally was just to pay my bills on time, because I was somebody who was not good at paying my bills on time in my 20s. And I was behind. I didn't have good credit rating. And I'd go to seminars and workshops and see somebody on stage who was really successful, this man or woman. And I would leave the event being depressed, being defeated. and feeling unsuccessful and feeling like a failure because I'm thinking to myself, this person is talking about this big, audacious goal.
Right.
And there's such a gap between where I am, just living paycheck to paycheck and wanting to pay my bills on time. And this person's talking about buying some freaking jet or some new car or some new watch or some real estate property or some mansion. And I can't even get there in my mindset. I'm just thinking, man, how do I have enough money coming in so I, can pay my bills on time and improve my credit score? That was my big thing. And have food every day that I can open up in my refrigerator. So for me my biggest thing was in my life was I would put people on a pedestal and put myself in the pit. So whenever I go to like a Chamber of Commerce event or a Rotary Club meeting, or I go to a trade show or a conference and I meet successful people, I'd automatically put them up here and I was down here. And I was so scared. Like, well, what am I going to like? People are like, hey, I want to introduce you to this person. Why do I want to hang out with those people, man? I'm freaking broke. Like, don't invite me out for dinner. What am I going to talk about? Nobody can learn anything from me. I got nothing to contribute to the conversation. I'm just freaking struggling here right now. What am I going to talk about? These people are successful. Why should I have a seat at their table? Right?
Just to touch on that a little bit, I went into your bio, did some studying on you, and it seems like you go to the events. One of the things is how did Dale Carnegie and Toastmasters kind of tie into this development to get you from A to B?
Great question. Yeah. So quick backstory. So I failed grade 1 of public school, was misdiagnosed with a learning disability and a reading disability. So in grade 1, I was then put into what we call special ed or special education from grade 1 all the way through to grade 12. So I never went to regular public school. I was in a small little classroom in special ed, right? With special needs students. So then at age 7, I create my first business called Rent a Kid. I go out and cut grass, shovel sidewalks, deliver newspapers. By age 9, I hired my best friends, which today, 40 plus years later, we're still great friends. Go through school, very insecure, very alone, very afraid, felt invisible, never smart enough, never good enough, never going to amount to much. This is my constant negative self-talk, right? Because my environment to me is set up that you're a failure, you're a loser, because everybody's telling me you're never going to amount to much, you're never going to go far, you're in special ed, you're not with the normal kids. And so then I get into grade 11. I'm taken out of class one day by a guidance counselor and a school teacher. And they take me to the guidance counselor's office and they said, Darren, if you graduate from grade 12, what do you want to do? I said, I want to travel around the world, make a lot of money, have a lot of fun, make a big difference. And it was never the money. I just wanted freedom. I didn't want to be told what to do because all my life growing up as a kid, I was told what to do. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get to a point in my life right now where nobody can tell me what to freaking do.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of people telling me what to do. Yeah. Right? Because everybody's telling me what to do. And it's not right because I shouldn't be here. Right? But now I realize that those, through my childhood trauma, those are gifts, those are blessings. So then, as I left school, I realized, okay, now I did multiple suicide attempts to end my life because I had no direction, I had no focus, I had no purpose as a man. And in my final attempt to drive my car at 85 miles an hour or 140 kilometers an hour towards the telephone pole, I stopped the car. And and just so you know, I actually went yesterday to where I actually attempted suicide. Wow. I went just yesterday, just 24 hours ago. I was actually at the spot yesterday to look back on my life as a point of reflection. To see how far I've come. It's just interesting how you bring this up. And what happened was I realized I couldn't hit the telephone pole. So I drove my car to a nonprofit organization, which is a 24-hour crisis line, telephone crisis line. And I rang the door buzzer. I turned myself in. They offered me counseling. This is back in the 1990s. And a lady there at this crisis line, she says, I want you to go meet a guy named Dale Carnegie. So I'm like, okay, a mentor. So I go to this hotel, walking around the hotel lobby looking for Dale Carnegie. Wow. And a hotel employee kept me and said, can I help you? You look a little lost. And I said, I'm here to meet a guy named Dale Carnegie. Do you know where he would be? You go upstairs in the conference room. So I go upstairs in the conference room. I'm walking around and he says, can I help you? I said, yeah, I'm here to meet a guy named Dale Carnegie. She says, oh, come on in. I didn't know it was a Dale Carnegie training program. It was just too general information. I didn't get specific information. I got general information. Right. So I go to this program. I'm thinking, well, what am I in this room for? All these chairs, like in this seminar for? This is weird, right? What am I doing here? And then it was just so moving for me that night, thinking, wow, look at all these people, man. They're collaborating. It's positive energy. I want this. I want this. Whatever I do, I got to sign up for this. I want to be around this environment. Yeah. And so I signed up for the Dale Carnegie training program, a 12-week program. From there, I met a lady who introduced me to Toastmasters International. So I go to this Toastmasters meeting one night as a guest, her guest. I walk into this room totally out of my comfort zone, totally scared, right? Really scared because public speaking. And at the end of the night, they go around and they ask the guests if they'd like to stand up and just say anything about their experience for being at the Kalamaka Toastmasters meeting. So I stand up. There's a few guests. I stand up and I completely forgot my name. I was so scared. I had to look down and see my name badge. And that's how I got introduced to Toastmasters and how I got introduced to Dale Carnegie. And those two organizations transformed my life. Give me a whole different direction and focus and purpose in my life.
Toastmasters, I heard, it's like Fight Club. It's like the first day you're there, you have to speak, right? It's like a Fight Club, the old movie. First day you're there, you have to fight. It's like they get you up there and they get you going.
It's very experiential.
Locally, but they didn't have one in my area at the time.
Well, now a lot of it's virtual online, and Toastmasters is in over 100 countries around the world. They're global, multiple languages. Yeah. And you can get a business toast. Like there's so many different clubs if you go online and just check it out. But it's such a low investment, financial investment, for a few $100s a year that you could cancel your Netflix subscription or you'll learn more from Toastmasters than you will from your cable television. I'm feeling like, well, I can't afford a couple $100 to Toastmasters. Cancel your cable television. Trust me, it's a better return on your investment, right? Sure. Yeah. And so there's always a way if someone's committed. Right? It's like somebody says to me, well, yeah, but a homeless person, like I was once homeless, right? People say, well, yeah, but if you're homeless on the street, you got no money. Listen, if you have a few extra Coca-Colas or a few extra things that day, you can save up money to buy the book. It's just what's your focus and how committed are you? There's always a way if you're committed, right? People, and the thing is, unfortunately, most people do not make a major change in their life unless there's a crisis.
Well, a question just popped into my head because you've trained so many, people throughout your life. And so it seems like as a leader, the best way to get somebody to make a change is through self-discovery, yes. How do you incite that self-discovery as a leader,
Yeah. So I asked people, I said, listen, would it be okay if I have an uncomfortable conversation with you and give you some feedback on some things I noticed in your life? So I asked for permission first. I get permission, right? I said, listen, I'd love to walk you through an exercise. And the exercise is this, where are you self-aware in your life and where are you unaware in your life? Would you be willing to take a look of where are you self-aware in your life and where are you unaware in your life? They're like, what do you mean by that? I said, well, would you agree that we all have blind spots in our lives? And they go, yeah, that makes sense. We have blind spots. Okay, great. If you were able to identify what some of these blind spots are, do you think that could actually help improve your quality of your life? Yes or no? People are like, well, absolutely. Blind spot maybe around finances, around health and fitness and nutrition, maybe around your relationship, maybe around, business. We all have blind spots. So I start with the self-discovery of where are you self-aware and where are you unaware. And I have them write down, take out a piece of paper and actually kinesthetically write it down on paper. Where do you think you're self-aware in your life right now? Let's just do an audit or an assessment just to yourself. And people are like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. I said, well, let's just take a little bit of time. There's no right or wrong answers. Let's just self-discovery. And I do this. And I say, great. Are you in a relationship right now? And they say, yeah. So the greatest coach you'll ever have is your spouse. Like, what do you mean? Yeah. I said, because he or she knows your strengths, your weaknesses. They know your blind spots. They know what you're good at. They know what you're procrastinating. They know everything about you. They know your insecurities, your fears, your doubts, your worries, your uncertainties. They know all that stuff.
Yep.
So as you start to become more self-aware of this, of where you're self-aware, where you're unaware, you start to unpack all this. You think, oh my gosh, through the self-discovery process, these are all things that are blind spots to me. Wow. So if I just take on some of these things and go to work on these things, what could help improve the quality of my life? Right. So I'll give you an example. A big breakthrough I had around was money. Right. I've been around a lot of very wealthy people in my life now. And I get myself around wealthy people because wealthy people do not work for money. That was such a big paradigm shift for me. What do you mean wealthy people, affluent, rich people do not work for money? No, they don't work for money. The poor and the middle class work for money. But wealthy people do not work for money. Wealthy people work to acquire income-producing assets, right? So they're buying assets. Other people are buying liabilities. Assets put money into your pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. An asset will feed you. A liability will eat you. Mm-hmm. Most people are consuming liabilities. They're buying the boat. They're buying the snowmobile. They're buying the new vehicle. I drive a 2015 Honda Civic. I could buy a Rolls Royce, buy any kind of car I want. I can pay for it in cash too. All that stuff. But I drive a 2015 Honda Civic. People say, why? I like to be low profile and high impact. Low profile, high impact. Why? Because the more visibility, the more exposure you have out there of all these fancy things, then you create potential risks and liabilities. And then it comes into what we call asset protection and risk mitigation. Wow. So if you do, and I always encourage you, do your research, do due diligence. I always say, look at people who are showing off on social media and take a look behind the curtain and do your discovery and due diligence. And what you will find is a lot of chaos. what you'll find is people who are exposed to more potential risks and liabilities, fights, arguments, potential litigations, all the stuff going on. And you'll find that people who are really successful, affluent, wealthy, accomplished, low profile, high impact. If I brought you to a dinner party, you would be amazed at some of the ultra high net worth people that are in my inner circle that you would never think by looking at them, they make more than 60 grand a year. And yet they're worth billions or hundreds of millions of dollars. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I would have never picked that person out because they're low profile, high impact. Now, they may not drive a flashy car, but they may live in a beautiful home. They may have luxury travel. But when they're out in public, because remember, they want to establish, if they're in business, they're entrepreneurs, they want to build rapport. Look at Elon Musk as an example, right? Look at how low profile he is, the guy. Sir Richard Branson, right? If you see Sir Richard Branson out in the public, yeah, he's got his Necker Island and, he owns airlines. But if you see him out and about, he's jeans and a t-shirt. Elon Musk, casual. A lot of these different men and women, they're really ultra successful people, and I've been around a lot of them. I got knighted by the royal family, out of Spain, right? And you're around these people when they're in civilian clothes, you would never know that they're royalty until they're in their formal attire. I've been with princes, I've been with kings, I've been with all those people. When you're around them in civilian clothes, they're just like us human beings. I used to be a good friend of mine, used to be the 25th wealthiest man in the world. He's passed away now. Oh. And I would meet him and he would drive a 2005 GMC Jimmy 4x4 truck. And when we'd meet, he always wanted to go to IHOP, International House of Pancakes. Yeah. Never went to some luxury steakhouse or the Ritz-Carlton. We always went to IHOP. And that's where he was the 25th wealthiest man on the Forbes 100 list. And that's where we'd go meet. And he'd walk in with jeans and a t-shirt. And the way he would treat the waitress or the waiter was incredible. The man of character and integrity. He would be so present, so focused on that waiter or waitress in the IHOP restaurant. I thought, no wonder this guy's a multi-billionaire.
No.
How do you treat people?
Yeah, just to touch on that, I mean, it seems like the more successful you get, the less drama that you want to be around, right? And like you said, successful people, Dave Ramsey, he's big on this, where it's, most millionaires drive a 5-year-old used car. Yeah. And then you're touching on this financial freedom. And it seems like you got a lot of Robert Kiyosaki principles, when you're talking about assets. Is that kind of where you got your start? And you're figuring
Rich Dad Poor Dad
real estate tie into that? Because that's kind of where I got my start. So when you're saying this stuff, it's all clicking. This is kind of where I'm like, all right, I'm going from employee to investor, right? And I'm getting out of that cash flow quadrant, and then now I'm a businessman, right? Yeah. So same thing. Is that how you kind of?
Yeah. So like in my book, Until I Become, right? Because it's a very practical book, less than 100 pages. One of the things I talk about is a story about meeting a mentor. So here I am, I'm homeless. I'm living on welfare. And then I get a job selling watermelon on the side of the highway and at farmer's market. I'm working for a watermelon cantaloupe farmer, right? And so I'm on the side of a highway selling watermelon cantaloupe. Okay. And people are driving by on this highway here in Canada. This guy pulls up in a Lincoln Town car and he starts buying watermelon from me. And he pays me cash, right? Next day he comes by, he buys more watermelon. It's really weird because most people come by and they'll buy watermelon, and that will be for 3 or 4 or 5 days, and they'll come back again maybe on the weekend for their family. But nobody comes day after day, 4 days in a row buying watermelon. It's really strange, right? And so I see a different pattern here. But what I noticed about this gentleman, an older gentleman in this Lincoln Town car, is he has a billfold of 5 $1,000 crisp Canadian dollar bills. And I'd never in my lifetime ever seen somebody with $1,000 bill back when we had $1,000 bills. I'd only seen that on television. Okay. So it was really weird. Like, wow, this guy has 5 $1,000 bills. Man, what's this guy do? Is he a drug dealer? Like, what's this guy do? So I become very curious because here I am, I'm flat broke, right? I'm selling watermelon on the side of the road. So I asked this guy, would it be okay if we get together? And so I borrow a friend of mine's vehicle because my car got repossessed. So I borrow a friend of mine's vehicle. I go meet with this guy at a coffee shop and I bring a journal with me. And I asked him if it's okay if I take notes. And this guy's intrigued, like, why are you coming with me? You're a watermelon farmer. Why are you taking notes from me? Because I want to learn, because I don't want to be I don't want to stay where I'm at. I want to go to the next level. So success leaves clues. So I started asking this guy a lot of questions. He invites me to come out with him. Okay. Now, one thing was I was transparent with him, and I was fully, all my cards on the table. Listen, I'm broke right now. I'm on wealth. I'm homeless. Right, I'm staying on a friend's mine's couch right now, or I'm sleeping in a treehouse sometimes, or I'm sleeping in an apple orchard. That's where I'm bouncing around. And I was fully upfront with the guy, and he respected that, the integrity of that. So then he drove me around, kind of like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he drove me by this lot one time, had a chain link fence around it with all these weeds, And he says, young fella, he goes, what do you see? And I said, well, I see a chain link fence with a whole bunch of weeds and a bunch of dirt and a bunch of garbage. And he stops, get out of the car. He starts yelling, get out of the car. He yells at me, he takes it, pounds his head. So he goes, is that what you see? And I said, yeah, that's what I see. I see a chain link fence with a bunch of dirt with a bunch of weeds. What else do you see? I see a 36 unit real estate complex. And he starts running numbers. And they said, I see enough cash flow from this so I can build another place in Maui and have a vacation place. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? He would see things that were invisible and create them visible, which we call opportunity zones. So what he would do is he would turn a crisis into an opportunity. He would watch the news media and people are like, oh my gosh, they get angry or upset, right? Or depressed. He would get inspired by watching news. And he'd say, that's my to-do list. That's how I go solve problems to serve the masses. So he was my Rich Dad, Poor Dad originally. And then when I got introduced to Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so powerful because I had a rich dad in my life. This guy. And by the way, the guy who I met on the side of the road selling watermelon had a grade 3 formal academic education, grade 3.
Wow.
And guess what? He lived off of his money's interest. Think about that. People say, I want to become financially independent. How many people have you ever met that lived off their money's interest? The principal plus interest plus interest.
Love it.
It was a whole different level of conversation. But he taught me how to build teams. And he was the guy that introduced me that most of my goals and dreams do not require my actions. Yeah. Because he was demonstrating to me by his life that most of his goals and dreams did not require his actions. He was all about creating teams and teamwork with people, being the visionary, and then meeting people either virtually or in person, and then sharing his ideas, collaborating with people, and then creating action plans to go to work to solve the problems. And when he didn't have the money to hire them, can I give them equity? Can I give them shares? Can I give them ownership? Can I give them profit sharing? He'd figure out some way, some structure that was win-win for everybody in his group to help them win. And he was into real estate development. At the time I met him, he had about 4,000 properties before he died. And he became the bank. He was the financial bank for people's mortgages. So every month, people rather than paying the bank or the mortgage company, they were paying him. He had his own personal bank that he built over many years.
That's awesome.
He was a very wealthy man. And if you met the guy on the street, jeans and a t-shirt. I don't think he ever owned a suit.
I think that ties back into a quote from your book. You can't have a $1 million dream with a minimum wage work ethic, right?
Correct. Or you can't go to a $10 breakfast and close $1 million deal. I've tried that. He taught me that. He says, Darren, you can't. He says, you got to stop going to these $10 events where you're paying $10. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you got to get a different seat at the table. And I said, I can't afford that. He goes, you can't afford not to. He goes, if you don't have the money to pay to get to the charity event or to get to that fundraising event. I remember one time I went to a $5,000 plate dinner. I'll give you a quick example. I went to I got invited one time. So I'm in Uganda, East Africa. And I'm at this event. I'm guest speaking at this event in Uganda, East Africa. And I have these 2 medical doctors in my event. And afterwards, they work in an HIV/AIDS clinic. And they invite me to come as a site tour to come to this HIV/AIDS clinic. So I go there. And I see this person on the wall, and I'm like, oh, who's that? And they tell me who it is. I'm like, oh, yeah. And I thought she was Ugandan. And so anyways, I get back to Canada, and about a month later, I get a telephone call in New York, and there's this famous musician. She calls me up. She goes, hey, can I speak to Darren Jacklin? I said, speaking. She goes, this is so-and-so calling. She goes, listen, I've heard about you. You're in Uganda, East Africa. She goes, I contribute through my family foundation to this project for the HIV clinic in Uganda. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, would you be willing to come to my Black Ball event, this charity event that I do every year in New York? And I'm like, okay, how much is it? She says, $10,000. $10,000. I don't have 10 grand. So what happened was she invited me 3 years in a row. Finally, I had somebody who I did some work for who actually bought my ticket and my travel. I flew down there as a single guy, flew down there with my ticket. I go down there and I meet this person, this famous person. And I go in there and she said, listen, we've got a table for you, but the other 7 chairs are full. So I get to the front, and guess whose table I'm at? The founder of Starbucks, Howard Schultz's table.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, people would pay $100,000. People would pay $1 million to have a seat at this table right now.
Right.
And what I discovered was proximity is power. See, the key thing is what happens in life is a lot of times here's something to look at as human beings. All we are is a network of conversations. We're a network of conversations. And I always share with people, get around people. Number one, be in the conversation. Number 2 is get a seat at the table. I'll give you an example. The Elevate to Educate hiking fundraiser event we did here earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
I had 6 people come out just to support Link Foundation, support Elevate to Educate, to come out and hike. Those 6 people today are international best-selling authors 6 months later, because I introduced them to one person on the hike who owns a big successful publishing company. And on the hike said, you know what? You should tell your story to lots of people. Well, I have no idea how. You should tell your story. Let's get on a Zoom call. Let's collaborate. And 6 people came out that day, had no interest in ever becoming writing a book. Never in their lifetime. But all they did is got them onto a Zoom call, recorded it, transcribed it, did a rough draft, went through some edits, did final draft, and printed it. And within 6 months, the book went international. All 6 people. Wow. And today they're looking at, oh my gosh. So I share this with you, not to impress you, but to probably thinking, you never know that when you get around a group of people, what can happen when you're through a network of conversations. The key thing is to be open to the possibilities, because inside of conversations, opportunities. Right? What's that?
There's a cost of ignorance, right? If you don't do those things, there's a cost to that. And we never look at it that way. We look at what is the cost of that current thing, you know.
Absolutely.
That's huge. It's a shortcut.
It's a shortcut. It is, because the thing is, if you look at, like when I go speak at college, universities now, or high schools, I always tell the kids, I said, look, you know, getting degrees in education, sure, it's important, but who do you have access to in your phone is even more important. See, the thing is, we're taught in school, it's about how you do something. Well, how do I figure this out? It's never about the how, it's about the who. Who do you have access to, right? Who are you in close proximity to? Who can you call upon? Who do you have access to? That's the key thing, because most of your goals and dreams don't require your actions. So when you're trying to solve something or figure something out, why don't you just get on a phone call or send a text message or an email or get on a discovery call, on a Zoom call, and collaborate with somebody to sort things out? Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane of what you're really, really good at. Everything outside of your lane, build a team of people to help you.
Mm.
But stay in your lane. I stay in my lane. People ask me all the time, they go, Darren, what do you think about that? I said, I have no idea. Like, what do you mean? I said, but I can call somebody that can give you the answer.
This sounds a lot like Dan Sullivan's Who Not How, right?
I've never read that book, but in fact, Dan's, I believe, in Toronto, Canada. I've never met him, but someday we'll probably run and cross paths with each other. But somebody else mentioned that the other day, that there's actually a book written about that. I didn't know.
Who Not How. I give it out to a lot of people, just a lot of friends and stuff like that. But it's exactly the same kind of concept that you're talking about. You got to find your who's in life, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Then you can figure out the how after. You might not be the right who for this job, but as long as you can figure out how to get it done.
And here's one of the challenges with this, right? Is as human beings, we want to look good and we don't want to look bad. So if we think about just in our lives as a self-awareness thing, is where in my life do I always want to look good and where do I always don't want to look bad? Right? So as a human being, we walk around wanting to always look good, right? Want to look good when I'm merging onto a lane, make sure I turn my signal light on, make sure maybe I wave at the person. You know what I mean? We always want to look good, but we don't want to look bad. And so sometimes asking for help is really uncomfortable. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to ask for help. I always share with people, when I talk about this, and until I become, make requests. I feel like, what do you mean? I said, listen, 2 things that can change your life. Number 1 is promises and requests. I always say to people, I said, what do you give your word to? Because your word creates your world. Right? Your words create your world. See, most people you hear in business, people say, well, talk is cheap. I said, let's go a step further. Most people cheapen their talk because their words have no power. Think about that. Most people cheapen their talk because their words have no power. So they say Darren, I have a New Year's goal. I want to lose 10 pounds. So first of all, you never want to lose weight. You want to release weight, not lose it. If you lose 10 pounds, your brain will want to go find it again. Right? If you release 10 pounds, it's gone for good or gone forever. So it's how we language things. I'm going to release 10 pounds. Release it, it's gone for good, it's gone forever. So it's how we language things. We release weight, not lose weight. So I'm going to release weight. Then you say, I have a commitment. Now, here's the thing about goals and dreams and standards. So when I was developing for Mount Kilimanjaro, I structured everything into my calendar a year in advance. So I have accountability and responsibility, and I have reporting. So I have people I report to, right? So I have accountability, responsibility, and I have a structure in place. Then what I looked at is, okay, I now have a standard of working out. It's not, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this an hour, or 30 minutes, or 15 minutes a day. It's a must. It's a standard. It's a non-negotiable. And that's the key thing, is creating standards in your life. It's a standard that I have 3 date nights a month, or whatever it is, or spend so much quality time per month with your children. It's a standard. It's a non-negotiable. Okay. Now, when it comes to promises, I always say to people, what do you promise your life? What's your top 10 promises for this calendar year? So not goals, but what do you promise? What do you give your word to? And I always say to people, this is one thing with terms of goal setting. I said, okay, let me ask you a question. How committed are you to this goal? And they go, well, I got to achieve it. Okay, great. So you want to make $10,000 a month. Okay, great. So let me ask you a question. Are you a homeowner? And they go, yeah. So if you don't achieve this goal by $10,000 a month by this specific, measurable, and actionable date, I take the keys to your home and you're now homeless. See, now you got some skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
See, people don't have enough accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I've had people meet with me on airplanes and like, I want to, I'm achieving this target this quarter. Okay, great. Tell you what, if you don't achieve that target, I take your car. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, I get the keys to your car. I'm now the registered owner. Well, you can. Well, listen, why are we having that discussion? You should just say done.
Yeah.
Right.
Because now I know you're not fully
a dream,
committed.
right?
What's that?
I said, is it a goal or a dream, right?
Exactly.
Are you
Or
going to do
fantasy.
it? Yeah, fantasy. There you go.
Right? What are you committed to? See, here's the key thing to look at. I always share with people, and this is why I train people when we go out, elevate to educate with hiking. I said, how committed are you committed to your commitments? So I have a lot of people who are weather dependent. So when they feel right, or it feels good, or it's convenient for them, they'll do it. So I have a lot of people who want to come, Darren, listen, you're getting in phenomenal shape. I want to train with you. I want to go out hiking with you. I want to collaborate with you and pick your brain. I say, great. I mean, at this date, this time, at this location, I'll be there. Then all of a sudden the weather changes. It's overcast, it's cloudy, it's rain, it's snow. And all of a sudden I get a cancellation, Darren, I can't come today. Well, why? I'm here. Well, it's raining out. Okay, we're going to be in a canopy of trees. Okay. And they're like, well, I just don't feel like getting wet. No, you don't want to be inconvenienced. You see, the thing is that what are you willing to do? Are you committed to your commitments? And I always say, we'll see.
I mean, I haven't achieved everything in the world, but I have had some success in real estate. And when I try to have others follow that path, you get them, I'm on there every week. I'm showing up, you get there's one thing that happened or this, and it's not convenient anymore for them to do those. It's the same exact thing.
Absolutely.
They just can't have that standard, like you said, and commit to that. And what it is, and it's not in a rude way, but it's lacking integrity. You're not doing what you say you would do. And that creates a snowball effect of you don't believe in yourself because you said you would do this thing and you didn't do this thing daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do complete work, right? You start something, you complete something. And I always share with people, I'll give you an example. I had somebody recently who've been trying for a few months to get on my calendar they've got this startup company and they want to run some things past because they're raising capital. And I said, listen, I'm not going to have a breakfast or lunch or dinner meeting. I'll take you hiking, but I'm not going to go sit in a restaurant with you and waste an hour and a half. We'll go get some physical exercise and be out in nature. So they go, okay, great. I'll be there. So had a calendar invitation got sent out. Here's the date, time, location, and information on all trails about the hiking trail. It was a beginner hiking trail. Person doesn't even show up, doesn't text me, doesn't email me. They said yes to the calendar invitation. So guess what? 2 weeks go by and I get this message on LinkedIn Messenger. Hey, want to see about getting together with you. And I'm thinking, listen, you've stepped over your out of integrity with me. You haven't even cleaned up this mess of being out of integrity. Now you're stepping over the out of integrity to want to get back on my calendar to meet with me. And here you were a no-show and you accepted the calendar invitation and you didn't even check in with me to let me know you're going to be a no-show. Let's clean up the out of integrity first and restore your integrity and give promise to your word before you try and recommit to something new. See, I always share with people when people want to financially, like one of my mentors, the guy who was on the side of the road selling watermelon, one of the exercises he got me to do years ago is he got me to write down on paper in my journal, where am I out of integrity with my finances? What did I give my word to that I didn't honor and follow through on? And he's like, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? And he goes, I want you to start at number 50 and count down to number 1, 50 out of integrities related to your finances. I'm like, I don't have 50 things. He goes, oh yeah, you do, Darren. It's a blind spot. And he goes, you got 2 weeks to work it out. I'm like, so I start arguing with him. I said, listen, he says to me, he said, Darren, are you going to argue with me are you going to argue with me for your limitations, or are you going to do the exercise? Don't waste my time.
Wow.
So like, okay, Harry, I'm going to do the exercise. So I did the exercise and I realized all these out of integrities that I'd given my word to things around my finances. And the key thing is when you take a look and you do an inquiry, a self-discovery, you'll start to notice, wow, I said this about this and I didn't follow through. I didn't honor that. I exaggerated this. I embellished this out of integrity. And then you start realizing, wow, my words have power. Because what did I say earlier? Most people, right, they think that their words have no power because they cheapen their talk because the words have no power. So you start to realize the words that come out of your mouth, the power that they have through a ripple of impact through a network of conversations. Here's the thing to always remember. Never assume you aren't being observed. Never assume you aren't being observed. We're always being watched.
Oh, yeah. Especially from our children, what you say is one thing, but your example is another thing, right?
So I just, last week, I met with one of my mentors from Toastmasters who I met back in the 1990s, a very affluent man, very accomplished. He's 80 years of age today. And I met him now 15 years later. And when I met him just last week, he brought up a list of things that I told him 15 years ago.
Wow.
He remembered. And I've achieved every one of those things personally, professionally. But he listened to what I said, what I gave my word to. And he said, I want to acknowledge you on your integrity and keeping your integrity, keeping your word.
Awesome. What do you think the key is? Because it seems like you had a lot of mentors in your life and just trying to go down that path as far as, okay, I see this person kind of where I want to be. How'd you make the connection that, hey, I know I need help. How could I, if you want to go far, go alone, that type of thing?
Yeah, sure. So I always want to shake hands with people who are living my life where I see myself within 12 to 24 months. Right. So because sometimes it's a stretch goal, we can't see 5, 10 years out, but you can see the next 12 months, you can see the next 24 months. So I get around people. So for example, I use health, fitness, and nutrition because I was out of shape, out of breath, right? Here I am. To me, that was just normal. Not working out, not exercise. And I hung around people who didn't exercise. I hung around people who didn't have a gym membership. I hung around people who didn't go hiking, didn't take care of their health. They didn't. It was just not a priority to them. It was not higher on their value list. Right. So when I started hiking and became disciplined, I started to attract more people who had a focus on health, nutrition, and fitness. When I focused on finances, I'm wanting to buy income-producing assets and buying real estate and investing in companies and businesses, doing mergers and acquisitions. So the thing is start to get around. So like with technology today, being virtual as it is, there's so many different groups that you can get around, right? Because proximity is power. So you start getting around. So if you want to learn public speaking, like Dale Carnegie or Toastmasters. You want to learn about business networking, maybe Rotary International or Women in Business or Chamber of Commerce or EO, right? Entrepreneurs Organization. So there's different groups, or YPO, Young Presidents Organization. There's different groups that you can get around that's your vibe and your tribe. So the key thing is sitting down and ask yourself, what is it I really, really, really want in my life? Because, if the three of us right now went out and picked New York City or Chicago or San Francisco or Vancouver or Toronto or Singapore, wherever we went in the world, and we just randomly walked down the street and each of us grabbed 10 strangers and say, can I ask you a question? We're doing a survey. What is it you really, really, really want in your life? The number one consistent answer is, I don't know.
Yeah.
People don't know. I'm buying lottery tickets. I'm watching reality television. I'm living vicariously through other people. Most people have never sat down and actually written goals of what is it they really, really, really want in their life.
Wow.
It's a moving target for people.
Yeah, we just did that yesterday for 2024 goal setting and setting up business plans, trying to break it down to actionable steps. What do you think the key is for that?
So you write down what is so give me an example. Give me an example of a goal you wrote down.
Well, I broke it down for, usually agents, they want, the magic numbers like $100,000, right? Mm-hmm. So we broke it down per average commission per sale, which would be 4,000, meaning they'd have to sell about 25 units, which is about 2 houses per month. Mm-hmm. If they do that, then we divide that 25 by a conversion rate for leads, saying that they have to have like 833 leads per year. Okay, so what's that breakdown into conversations per day? And then, it was like an aha moment with everybody on the team. They're like, oh, so if I have 4 to 6 conversations a day, I could achieve my goal instead of having this overarching, I had $100,000 or even if it's even broken down granular, like 2 deals per month, they're like, oh, that's overwhelming because I didn't get 2. But if they just keep consistent daily activity,
Yes.
they're going to end up hitting their goal.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I do as a metric is a 3-step process is I go, okay, what my promise is. So here's my promise. Then step number 2 is my actual is. And then step number 3 is my gap is. So here's my promise, my actual, my gap. Right. So I could say, I'll give an example. I'll say, our next Elevate to Educate hiking fundraiser, I want to have 100 registered hikers. So my promise is 100 registered hikers. Then I look at, okay, what's the actual? Our actual is we have 7 registered hikers right now. What's my gap? 93. So then what I do is, okay, how many people I'm going to have conversations with today to enroll them in the possibilities of them coming out and coming hiking as a networking opportunity, dating proper experience. They want to meet other people. They're raising money, whatever it is for them. They want to get better health and shape. Everybody's coming out with a different why. So all I do is I focus on what's my promise, what's my actual, what's my gap through a network of conversations. And that's all it is having a network of conversations, because everything you want, like people always say to me, when I go out with licensed real estate agents, I always ask people, I say, listen, we're just out right now. What if you ask that person, listen, can I make a request to you? Who do you know is looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? So next time you go to the barber, the hairstylist, the chiropractor, the massage therapist, the reflexologist, the yoga teacher, the cab driver, the Uber driver, just say, listen, sir, would you mind to ask you a question? Who do you know right now is looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? It's like, well, I got an aunt, I got an uncle, or actually I don't know anybody right now. I'm good. Would it be okay if I leave you with my business card and just want to let you know, by the way, I give $50 gift cards to a restaurant of your choice for a referral. So next time you eat, I'll buy you lunch or buy you dinner. Now it's win-win. Now it's something's in for them. So I always create an incentive for people. I'll give you an example. So over the years, I love buying books, and I'm a voracious reader. And I love to listen to audiobooks, reading books, going to workshops. I was always trained, developing myself. And I would get a book from somebody, and I would read the person's book, find out what the person's address is, mail address, and I would send them a check. So if I read your book and I applied some knowledge and I made some money off a deal or an opportunity, I would then pay like a 10% referral for your commission fee, and I would send you a check as the author. And then a couple months would go by, and I get sometimes a phone call or an email saying, okay, you're not in our database, you're not in our system. What is this check for? Who are you? What's this about? And I'd say, well, a few months ago, I saw you at a workshop or a seminar. I'll give you a real example, okay? Years ago, I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, and I go to a seminar, and I don't have much money, and I'm way in the back. There's 1,000 people in the room. I'm way in the back. I'm not in the VIP section, okay? And there's this guy from Toronto, Canada, who's up on stage, older gentleman, owns multiple companies, very successful, very humble, low-profile guy, but incredible leader, building companies and doing things for his community, stuff like that. I'm thinking, oh, I'd love to be like that guy. That guy's like 25, 30 years older than me, but man, I want to be like that guy. So I'm way in the back taking notes, and I find out where this guy is in the greater Toronto area, where he lives, his companies, right? So I go out, I take all these notes, I apply what I learned, and I went and I was a check or money order. I went and got a check or money order from the bank of a certain dollar amount, and I mailed it off to Toronto, Canada, to this guy's office. A couple months go by. I put a thank you card in there as well with my phone number and stuff in there. I get a phone call from one of his executive assistants. She calls me up. She goes, hi, may I speak to Darren Jacklin? I said, speaking. She goes, this is so-and-so calling from Toronto from this group of companies, and just want to call. We're kind of confused on why this check has appeared at our office. Who are you and what's this about? I said, well, he was in Vancouver, Canada a number of months ago. I was sitting in the, way in the back because, I couldn't get VIP. I didn't have the money at the time. And I said, I was so impressed by what he shared on stage on this panel that I took notes. I applied it and I made some money, and I wanted to cut him in on the deal as a win-win opportunity. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, he would be so inspired to have like a 10, 15-minute call with you to hear this story about this. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, now I get one-on-one access to the guy. If I would have went VIP, I would have been with a group of VIPs, but not one-on-one access. Now I get a 10 to 15-minute one-on-one telephone call with this guy. This is incredible. Right. So, but 6 weeks later, I get on this phone call with this guy one-on-one. I share with him my story about how I went to the event, how I was so impressed with him, what notes I took in my journal, what I applied and produced results, and then made money from it. He goes, what do you do? I said, well, at the time, I was a corporate trainer. I was traveling the world doing corporate training seminars. I said, I'm a corporate trainer. This is what I do. He goes, listen, we're doing a quarterly offsite coming up here next quarter. He goes, we have a budget for $10,000 to pay you. plus your first class travel expenses. We'll put you up at the Fairmont Hotel in downtown Toronto. We'll fly you first class on Air Canada and from Vancouver to Toronto. And he goes, would you accept the opportunity? I said, absolutely. So I went in there and trained that company doing a quarterly offsite, then went for lunch with him. And I thought, oh my gosh. So here I went to a seminar that I could hardly afford, took notes from the guy on the stage, one of the guest speakers on the panel, sent them a thank you card with a check or a money order there for money, that I'd earned to cut him in on the deal. And now the guy paid me $10,000 for a day.
Wow.
Many people who are best-selling authors, New York Times best-selling authors, celebrities today, I have met them because I've sent them a money or a thank you card in the mail, a handwritten thank you card. And they're like, because here's the thing. Think about this. In the last 12 months, how many handwritten thank you cards have you got in the mail? Approximately.
Yeah.
That's why I said approximately.
Yeah.
See,
Maybe.
how do you stand out differently than everybody else?
That's beautiful. I love that. I implementing that immediately after the next book I read. So it might be your book. I'm inspired by the book.
Well, here's the other thing. The other thing is too is how do you get access to successful people? If they have a foundation or a charity they support the cause of the charity through your time, your talent, or your treasures. You'd be amazed, right? People are like, oh my gosh, somebody just sent us a check for our foundation or a charity, or like I have somebody right now who is an international best-selling author. They called me up a few months ago. Hey, Darren, for your schools that you're building for these impoverished children, your Link Leadership Academy schools, do you have a library in your school? I said, that's something we want to create. Can I contribute my books for all your schools? And if I get a bunch of my friends together as authors, we'll then compile our books and we'll pay for the shipping cost to ship the book there to put them in the school library. Think about this from an author perspective. Now your book is in the hands of the next generation.
Yeah.
Right? Your book is going to be around for many, many years beyond your death. It's part of your legacy.
Unbelievable.
It's all about connection, and you said who's in your phone. That's what it is.
And what's in your calendar? Because what's in your calendar shows up in your life.
Right. Well, you've taught me a lot today. Wow. What an incredible, everything you've done, everything you've said here today. And you can see the genuine passion, and you're here ready to pour. And that's like, people think it's, some magic. I always say the magic pill. They think it's the magic pill. And really, you look at, you're showing up here today and just pouring, giving, and that's where this all stems from. That's how you.
Well, here's something to consider in life. As a human being, we're either coming from a problem, we're in a problem right now, or we're heading towards a problem. And every human being goes through this. We're coming from a problem, we're in a problem, we're heading towards a problem. In the next 7 days, you're either going to be coming from a problem, you're in a problem, you're heading towards a problem. The question is, how are you going to respond or react to that problem or challenge? Is it a crisis or is it an opportunity? Right? And most people, what we do is we withdraw and avoid, like, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming, it's too big, too challenging. We're saying, okay, here's this challenge or problem I'm in right now. How can I address it? Maybe write things down on paper. What's the benefits and drawbacks of it? How do I solve it? Or who can I call and get access to work through this problem? Because the bigger the levels you go at in life, the bigger the challenges and problems you occur. It never goes away. Right now, when you have more money, you can solve problems with writing a check. That helps because you got a team of people around you, maybe accountants or lawyers, things like that. But the key thing is nobody ever avoids any problems or challenges. It just magnifies. It just gets bigger. Right? I've sat down with a guy. I was with a guy just a couple of weeks ago. He's got to pay $3 million this year for taxes. He's got a $3 million tax bill. Okay. He's made a lot of money. He's like, man, I got a $3 million tax bill this year. Right. And he's like, people complain on social media, they owe money to the taxes. Pay my tax bill. Right.
I've heard that too, and it's a good life lesson too, where it's like, do you want small problems or do you want big problems? The more successful that you're going to get, the bigger problems that you're going to have. So now, I think awesome content today. Talking about the daily activities, talking about your calendar, and your calendar creates your future. Right? What's in your past is in your future. We hear that all the time. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the accountability and being that whole person, that integer, that integrity, I think is is awesome. I appreciate your time. We definitely want to be respectful
Grateful
of that.
To be here.
Yeah. Do you think there'd be anybody else who do you think would be somebody that would be, awesome guests to have on the show that that we should speak to?
Sure, I've got a number of people I could communicate with you now or offline and share with you different people that I think would be very practical and very educational for you to interview and have a conversation with that could really contribute to your community and make a massive difference in people's lives. That's what it's about, right? Because here's something I always say to people: your success or my success is someone else's miracle.
Right.
I always say to people, your success is someone else's miracle. The more accomplished, successful you become, the more of a miracle or blessing you are to other people. Right? Like I had a guy recently who was telling me, he says, I just helped out this homeless guy and I just give him $1. You didn't change his life. I said, you give him $100,000, you might change his life. I said, you want to be accountable? Write a check for $1 million to a charity of your choice. Right? You be the next person who builds, you be the next person who builds that hospital or that in your community. You build the next women's transition house. You build the next orphanage. You put your family name on there as a legacy. Yeah. Now it's really stepping up. You make an audacious goal, like we're going to build 100 schools. Today I've committed $100 million over the next decade towards global philanthropy. Wow. Right? And publicly put it out there. Right now, as I'm training from Mount Vincent to Antarctica, every week I'm taking my shirt off, front, back, and side photos of me for a whole 15 months of myself on social media every week of what my body looks like and my weight.
That's accountability.
Full accountability.
Public accountability is the best.
Yeah. That's I love it, and I mean that's the mission. I mean the mission here is we're the Shark concept is people on the offense, and I definitely you clearly have been proactive, throughout this journey, and that's what it's about. I'm very, very interested in anybody. We can further that conversation with and help uplift others.
Absolutely, because that's what it's about, right? It's a knowledge transfer. Because here's the thing I always share with people. If Warren Buffett, for example, if you were out today and Warren Buffett walked past you, right? He may not say anything to you, but that would have an influence and impact in your life.
Right.
And when you're around successful people, two things occur. Number one is a knowledge transfer, and number two is a transfer of energy. And why you always want to get around people who are more accomplished, more successful than you, because even if you're not feeling like you're succeeding right now, you're feeling like you're a failure, you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, never amounting to much, whatever it is, when you get around people more successful, there's a knowledge transfer, there's a transfer of energy. That's why I like when I go with people with hiking, because there's a transfer of energy and knowledge. In a 2-hour, 3-hour hike, there's a knowledge transfer and an energy transfer. Because you want to get around people. That's why successful people hang out with successful people, because there's a knowledge transfer and an energy transfer. You ever notice when you go to an event of successful people, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so energizing. Yeah. It's a vibe and it's a tribe of energy. So when you're not feeling good, get around people who are doing better than you, so you get that knowledge and that energy transfer. Because a lot of people say in life, it's all about the return on investment. Yeah, that's one thing you can do as a metric, but also it's a return on life and a return on energy. Yep. What's the return on life and what's your return on energy? Does this multiply and expand your energy? Being around these people, being around this event, doing this situation, this conversation we're having right now, does it give people a return on life and a return on their energy? Does it multiply and expand their energy? Does it multiply and expand their life with possibility and hope?
Beautiful. Absolutely. I'm ready to go out and crush the day.
That's awesome.
I'm pumped up. I know you're 3 hours behind us. What a way to start the day for sure. I'm super excited. Definitely appreciate your time.
I'm grateful to be here and be in service and make a difference.
I'll fire it up. Well, thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure.
Darren. It was absolute. I mean, it was such an honor to have you here. I honestly, and I never really went into it, but I heard about you when I went to the first EXP conference. I'd heard from going from homeless to where you were, and heard little bits. Met you when I was in a very different spot briefly at an EXP party in my life. I was drinking a little too much, right? And then I, getting to talk to you fully here today, it's like, my biggest regret is that I didn't, get myself in those rooms sooner, right? You know what I mean? So for anybody watching, don't wait, get around the people that push you to be better.
Oh yeah. Listen, when I first started, I'd pull up and think, oh my gosh, man, people saw my vehicle, what are they going to think? So I used to park my car in back alleys a few blocks away, and I'd walk and be like, when I leave, and be like, oh, did you park here, valet? No, I parked around the corner, right? Because I was so big. When I started doing corporate training seminars, for the first 10 years, I wore the same high school graduation suit my parents bought me. For the first 10 years I did my corporate training for 25 years. My first 10 years, I wore the same suit every day, just a different shirt and tie and underwear and socks. But the same high school grad, because that's all I had for money. Yeah. It was my one suit. That's all I had for my first 10 years of my corporate training career.
Oh, wow. Wow. I love that. That's it's not what was the suit isn't what got you there. It's you, it's your passion, right? It's
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
mission.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that you start with what you got, right? You start with what you got. Like I do a lot of stuff with, in Africa and stuff. And I always say to the people in Africa, take your cell phone. We have what we call World Wide Web. It's now World Wide Wealth. How can you now provide a product or service to solve some opportunity for somebody with your mobile phone in a village in Africa? And how can you make mobile money so you can help alleviate yourself and make more than $1 or $2 a day? How can you use this phone rather than playing games and goofing around on it? How can you turn it into a productivity tool that you can monetize it and turn into income?
Absolutely.
Right. So stop with the games, now turn into an income producing activity. And every time you're on a phone, generate revenue with it to help your family out and help your community, help your village. Bring in clean drinking water with this tool in the next 2 years. This becomes a tool where you help to put in a clean drinking well. You can help create income producing opportunities and business development here in your village because you got a cell phone. Be grateful that you got a cell phone in your village now. And you can connect virtually all over the world with people now through various different, like WhatsApp and Telegram, different apps. Use this as a tool. They're like, oh, I never thought about that before. Because they're thinking, oh my gosh, everybody around me is in starvation and poverty in my village. They're not thinking outside of that, thinking, how can I connect people globally and be in service and make a difference and solve a problem? Because you want to make more money, solve people's problems.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And then, like you said, information is so easily available now, and connectivity, everything is, you could be on a conference with anybody like just now.
All over the world.
I'm in Pennsylvania, you're in Vancouver, he's in Florida, you know what I mean? It's technology. I mean, you could do anything. So
yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Well, I'll be in touch about those people.
Please reach out to me by email, and I'll follow up with an email with some people I'll connect you with through email introductions. I'd love to help out and make a difference.
That's amazing. I'll be looking into that, the hiking foundation there. That's it's like lining up with my current, interests anyway. So that's
absolutely coming up. We'll be doing all over Canada, the United States, and eventually internationally. It's hikingfundraiser.com. Hikingfundraiser.com is the website. And
for everybody watching, check out Darren's book, Until I Become.
I'm getting it for the team. I got to get a copy for everybody on the team. Definitely. Yeah. Love it. Love the story. Love everything. Definitely appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting with us and our audience.
Grateful to be here and be in service. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll see you again. And absolutely. Grateful to make a difference.